So in that history, so when Rabbi Matthew told the rabbis, listen, I don't want you guys hanging around here. You guys have to go make something out of yourself and carry on the legacy and the tradition and let people know that they are the children. Let the people that are scattered in the four corners of the earth know that they are the children of Israel.
Right.
He started meeting in the apartments, and at what point did he get a congregation? What was the point that he transitioned from apartments? How did that break come about to get a congregation? What was his first congregation?
Believe it or not, we started in the house with, like I said, with Rabbi, what's his name? Brother Manat and his wife.
8 families.
And Brother, what's his name was?
Herman
Watts.
And we had 8 families.
We started off with 8 people.
In the basement.
In our house.
In the living room.
And
Astoria Projects.
Brother Manat lived in Brooklyn. And he said, we have a meeting and everything on the Sabbath. So he said to my husband, you know, I go to the Arts Club.
Yeah, the Mason.
Mason.
Yes, Mason.
He said, I'm going to ask them, can we rent the space so we can have service on Saturday, you know, over there. Right. So when he went and talked to him, and he said, yeah, you can have one room. He said, from 10 o'clock, I think
to 1 o'clock.
To 2 o'clock, I think it was. He said, but after 2 o'clock, somebody else rented it out. They would rent it out. So sure enough, from 10 o'clock, we'd be there when we get there, and we had food, and we would eat and drink and everything. So sure enough, 2 o'clock, come we still be going on. so you heard somebody knock. And he said, yeah, time is up. Somebody's coming at 4 o'clock to get there. So we said, okay. He said, y'all are the prettiest people I ever seen. He said, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, you're still praying.
And that was on Nostrand Avenue.
Yeah,
that's Nostrand Avenue and Willoughby.
Willoughby, okay.
Right, and then we went to 609 Marcy Avenue.
So we stayed there. And then my brother Manat staying in Brooklyn, he heard about a synagogue. Because in those days, there was a Edom, you know, which is white Jews. And they didn't have enough members to keep the synagogue, you know, going.
Right.
So he said before they would give it to a church, they rather to give it to, we here tell black Jews, you could call us black Jews, right. Which we was very proud to be called black Jews, but anyway. So our rabbi and them got together, and we saved some money up, and we went to meet them, and sure enough, they said we could rent the place. And we took it from there.
What place was this?
This is at 609 Marcy, so we came from Nostrand to 609. It was a restaurant too.
We rented. Yeah, we had
we made money. Had my Aunt Lillian and Mom would cook, and it was a restaurant and a synagogue. But we was able to save up the money.
609 Marcy.
Yeah.
So that's not Beit
No,
Shalom.
before we got the
It
Beit
was a
Shalom.
storefront.
We got out. We rented a place because they kept shutting us down. We couldn't worship as long as we wanted. So the rabbi and them was looking for a bigger place.
Right.
The members had increased.
Right.
And we had rented out at 609 Marcy Avenue, which was a restaurant and a synagogue.
Right.
And at that time, we had members like Bathsheba. We had Tanima. We had Ima Roof was a member.
Yeah, she's still a member.
We had Tavel, and I remember we had.
This is the same Ima Roof that I did.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, we were all
sang
members.
in the choir.
And we had at that time. We had been influenced with the Black Panther movements. We had dashikis. We were liberated. It was a transformation.
Right.
Because when we would worship together, we would always go back to the Mother Earth, African descent.
Right.
And I remember at that time we wore afros. We had our dashikis.
Yeah,
we
then go to African.
and we had a beautiful relationship with other groups like Beni Sakim, and they came, a lot of them. We had Eli. Remember Eli came? He was our shamus. We had Shamas Ben Yehuda.
And Prince on Saturday, Friday night,
Mm-hmm.
he came by too at that time.
Yeah.
Yes, so we were integrating with a lot of our congregations at that time,
Okay.
and we were.
Also, there was a interaction between like because I believe at that time Ben Azakin was
It was a little division.
what was the name Nabi Raphael.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Raphael
I
Tate.
heard, yes,
Yes.
I heard
Rabbi,
Yeah,
that.
Brother
Yes.
Tate.
Rabbi Tate.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know if you know the history. He started Ben Azakin
Right.
with Nasi Yaakov. They used to go to I believe it was congregation temple congregation, something like that. And they came out of there and they started Ben Azakin. So Ben Azakin, and from there comes Ima Tereya, and all of those people. So
At the time, we was Bet Shalom.
That's
so you had that Beit Shalom name was even when you were by the restaurant?
At
No.
609 Marcy.
Yes, we did.
yes,
Yes,
that's
we
correct.
did. That was how we had a charter, and we had 8 family
Who
members.
came up with the name? It was
Yes, we originated.
it was everyone together.
The
came up with
organization,
8
the
families.
organization.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Do you
taught.
remember what year you were incorporated, Beth Shalom?
1967. I'm reading it.
1967.
1967 was the first synagogue of Bet Shalom Ethiopian Hebrew
Hebrew congregation.
Congregation.
That's correct.
That was
born.
1967. And he was before bringing the congregation to its current location in Brooklyn. So this was in 609 Marcy Avenue. We were
So
Bet.
now Marcia, which
Yes.
is probably not too far from the.
Exactly.
We walked there, and I remember when we did the procession, when we got the blessing of getting up there.
I remember,
it was a
too.
vision that my father had, and this is what I remember when I was a small child. We visited that temple, and my father was very visionary, and he had blueprints and things that he wanted to accomplish. He would pray in the altar, and when we visited, it was Williamsburg Israel congregation. Young Israel congregation. Remember, we would go and worship there.
730 Willoughby.
And that was 730 Willoughby Avenue.
Yeah.
At that time, we never knew that we was going to own that building. But my father had vision. He went there, and he said he was integrating with the Jews. My father was an activist. He was not only a rabbi. He would get out into the community and search out how he could grow. And we walked up there. I remember we had a march. It was some occasion we walked
It
up
was
there.
Dr. King, when Dr. King got assassinated.
Yes.
Mayor Dinkinson said we have to
Yeah,
calm
Mayor
the
Dinkins.
city
Yes,
down.
it was
My
riots,
father took
everything.
the storefront right there. He took everyone. We're going to march in peace.
That's
and
it.
We had signs with peace signs to calm the people down.
And that's in
it was a
Smithsonian
We have the pictures.
in the pictures in the Smithsonian. So
Museum.
we
Also, New York
walked.
City didn't burn down?
No,
When
it was
Dr.
at
King-
rest.
He would try to bring it at rest. But coming from 609, I have to state, my sister and I, when we was at 609, had our bat mitzvah.
Yeah, together.
My father
Implemented.
instilled family values at the core of the house. He was our teacher teaching us Hebrew. He said, you are Hebrews of the Hebrews. You have a Hebrew language, and you have a land, which is Yisrael, to be proud of.
Right.
So when he taught us, coming up, when you come 13, like my mother was saying, when she
got
had, even
back.
though it was her
Yes.
baptism, he taught us our being a woman and taking the responsibility of our actions.
covenant.
So we had to learn the Nida, learn the Hebrew. He was our teacher. We, at the time, we knew of, I could say, Leah, Poinsett. I was in my best friend Leah Brishton's wedding. Okay, they went
Becky
to
Johannesson.
yeshivas.
Joe did.
My
And
father-
we heard stories. My father heard stories how they were being treated in the yeshivas, discrimination. So Abba said, I'm a teacher, and my mother, her favorite verse, teach thy children diligently. And my father took that word, and he had his own school in the room, discipline. We had time scheduled when you're going to say your bracha, when you're going to say when you go to bed, and to prepare your lessons how to even write Hebrew.
Right, we had to speak Hebrew, we couldn't
Because
get
he
it.
instilled in
It was
us
the whole
our
way back,
heritage.
right?
Our heritage came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
So let me understand.
Yes.
He stopped y'all from going to regular public school?
No, we went to regular
We
public
had
school.
yeshivas, because at that time, commandment keepers, we were all integrated into the Hebrewism from Christianity, and a lot of us went to the yeshivas. But when my father said that they weren't accepting us, he said, I'm not going to deal with
Send you
Edom.
to a yeshiva.
I'm going to teach you at home.
This is
And
your
every
language.
Sabbath-
went to public school.
We went to
regular
public
yeshiva.
school
Sorry.
because they would turn us against ourselves. When they would go to the yeshivas, they said, well, y'all don't know what y'all doing. Y'all can't read the Bracha properly. And they would disrespect our leaders. And he did not like that. He didn't want that for us to go there and then turn us into Edomites and then turn us against our own people, because he saw that.
Right. Okay, so he had a sense
teacher
of...
Moray.
Yeah, he had a sense of...
He didn't want us to lose our
Yeah,
identity.
he had a sense of identity.
Exactly.
That was what we
That's
were
what it
really
was.
proud.
At the end of the
He
day, he's
proud
still
of
black
the
living in
education.
America.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But he definitely instilled in us to really take advantage of the school system and to be
Right.
the best that we could
Absolutely.
be. But in
Right.
addition to that, like she said, we always had our religious instruction from him.
Talmud
in
Torah
addition
Kushi.
to
That
the
was the
regular
name of it.
public schools.
So he would bring you guys, when you guys came home, I
From
guess.
school,
after
then we
you
would have our
finished
religious
all your
instruction.
homework
I
and
got the
everything,
books. We used to
You
all
had to
have.
sit down and you had to go
Correct.
through school all over again.
That's right. That's right.
And if you wanted something from the table, some water, Mayim, you would have to say what it is, or else you didn't get it.
Yeah, they say in Hebrew.
In Hebrew. That's how he instilled, and we're proud of our heritage of how, to speak Hebrew in the home. Yes.
So Ima, just going back to your life a little bit. I know I'm going all the way back,
That's
but
okay.
I like to ask this question. So you lived in a Jim Crow South.
Well, I wouldn't say Jim Crow, but we didn't. I didn't call it Jim Crow.
But it was Jim Crow.
But I guess it was. But
you just didn't call it that.
it really because I
mean,
had.
when and what I mean by Jim Crow is
She didn't know it.
Jim
That's
Crow
why I'm letting her
laws
know that
were
she need to know.
you couldn't drink from the same water fountain as the white person
Then
did.
go to the
It-
same
it-
school.
well,
You had to walk through the back door of a restaurant or...
Well, I tell you, before I left North Carolina, we had been
Integrated?
because they was having the march. Remember when when it was and when Martin Luther King was sitting on the bus and all that.
Oh,
that was before I came up here. So when I came up, they were
integrated.
It was integrated.
Yeah, that
But
was
you still
Rosa
had
Parks.
signs.
Right.
But you still had signs in North Carolina.
Still went to all black
Because my
school,
father
Mommy.
made it clear to us when
You
we went to
didn't
the
go
school,
to no
they had
school
called what
that
called
they
White
had
Lake,
for the whites,
and that was
at the time
because
you
that
were
was
growing up.
specific for white people. So there was, you probably wasn't aware of it.
She
but
was
there
privileged.
There were still signs.
So what
There were
I'm
signs
realizing
that
is a lot of the interviews that I'm doing with elders that come from the South, a lot of us think that,
She did.
yeah,
She
they
said
were
she
living
didn't
in a
pick that
Jim
cotton
Crow
either
South,
because
but
she
they
was
had
white.
their own communities.
Right.
Right.
So because they had their own communities, their parents sheltered them from the discrimination.
Most
Exactly.
So a lot of them grew up in their communities with black teachers,
Yes.
with maybe not a doctor, but someone in the vicinity that knew everything that a doctor knew and would give you some herbs and.
No, we could go to a real doctor. We had doctors.
Black doctors.
Yeah,
Black
doctors
doctors.
and nurses.
No,
Yeah.
she's gonna give it to you
You
real.
had a black doctor or
Oh
a white
yeah,
doctor?
we had.
Talk about it. That's what we want
She
to
was
hear.
privileged.
Yeah.
No, but he's saying that they had in their community, they had
Black
people
doctors and
in
teachers.
those particular roles.
Right.
So they didn't really
but-
experience
So they
it.
didn't
When
really-
we said
right,
mommy was
correct.
privileged, she didn't pick the cotton because of her fair skin. That's what she told me.
No, I didn't pick the cotton because I said, I'm going to go to school and get an
what she
education
said.
because I'm not going to be out here picking cotton with no $3 a thing.
Okay.
I remember one time it was, well, I told you we were taking my Easter, and I wanted to get a dress. And the only way I could get that dress, I had to pick cotton. And I picked cotton to get 100 pounds, and they would give me $3.
Oh, still correct.
So I could get that dress. And sure enough, I picked it. And my mother helped me. And anyway, when they weighed it, I had 100 pounds of cotton. And I said to me, then and there, I said, no, I'm going to school, and I'm getting an education.
All right.
That's right.
Ema, and in that time when you were back there, and when you were living in that life, did you understand the significance of you picking cotton and your ancestry, like when you were young during that time, did they ever let you guys know like that you are descendants of slaves and what?
Oh yeah, I know about the slave. Mm-hmm.
You knew about that.
Oh yes, they tell us about Black history.
Right.
Because in those days, that's all the book we had would tell you about your history, and they told me that from slavery time, that's how we got it. But we was blessed that, like I said, that they had
80 acres.
All right now.
and we keep it paid, the taxes and everything.
So that's
To
why
this
y'all
day.
To this
That's why I
day.
call y'all privileged, because not everybody got that 3
So
acres.
is that land still productive? Are they still farming on that land?
No,
The lumber, I think.
but
he said they
we
were
get
buying
lumber off in
lumber.
it. But like I said, my brothers, when they growed up, they said, "Oh no, farming for them because they want to get a check every week, not once a year."
Right.
And you work all year round, and you get a bale of cotton. Sometimes you still owe the white man money for the cotton, So you got to
Using
start
the
back
machine.
over again. So no, we
That's
said no.
probably why y'all came up north, right? You
Yeah,
wanted
that's
better
why
for
everybody-
us.
Let's give it
because
a no.
sharecropping, you just working for, it's another form of slavery.
Right.
Another form of slavery. They would say you
And she
rented
wanted
our
more for her
equipment,
children.
and you would have to pay for wages that we owe
Right.
you for renting the land, so you never could get ahead.
You never could get ahead.
And work all
And the
day.
only way a person could get ahead if they had 1 million kids and they pick cotton all day and all
did the
night.
land.
Pretty much, and she wanted better for us.
Yeah. So okay. So now going forward, the march with Martin Luther King, you march from Marcy Avenue all
To
the way to
7:30.
to 730 Willoughby, and then how did that transition come about to 730 Willoughby from Marcy Avenue?
Oh my God, that
Beth Shalom.
7:30 Willoughby.
They needed a menu. Tell them
Yes.
how they needed a
The
menu
synagogue.
at the synagogue because
Yeah,
they
the
were still
small
trying to
members
hold
were
on with
dying
the
out.
small
And
one.
they're
The members
dying.
were dying out. They couldn't
were
even
happy
worship
to
in the
have
big temple anymore. They wouldn't worship down in
At
that
this
small
time,
little
there was European Jews. there.
European
And
Jews.
they were happy to have
I
Abba
remember
as
Brother
one of
Miller.
the 10. And that's how Abba made the friendship. Because
Yes.
they needed that 10, and he
Menu.
was a Hebrew Israelite. Said, "Come on in,
They
come on
accepted
in,
always
Friday,
open.
come on in, Saturday, right, mommy?" They
Unity.
made that
And
10,
he could
And then-
read. so
and then they talked him over. Look, we getting old. You want this building?
And we
And
were
that
filling
was the
up the
blessing.
place. We was filling up the place. It was
We had
growing
daycare
so much.
centers, right?
When my father was a leader, when I say a leader, people would look up to him and say, "You know what? I see how you are prospering with your family." And they had family light. They saw the light. And he would train those men to come and worship and keep the Sabbath day and bring your family.
Yeah, we
And
wrote
let
that.
your
A lot of
family learn to love Hashem, my mother's favorite word.
Yeah, thou
She
shalt
will
love the
work in
Lord
the
thy
kitchen.
God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and all thy might. And thou shalt teach it to your children. When you lie down, when you rise up, and when you walking by the way. That's what was my favorite verse, and I still say it to today.
And the mothers like Mother Pilgrim, right there at 730 Willoughby, writing that song, the
That's
poem.
Abram Pilgrim's mother,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
just
who just
passed.
passed away.
Yeah,
He was
that
with
was his
his
mother.
mother.
His mother.
She came to
That's
Bet
why I said
Shalom.
his mother.
Well, Rabbi Levy,
Right.
and they would get together because she was a Rabbinit, president of the sisterhood.
Yep.
Ema right here.
All right.
And so with the elders, they would get together and teach us all that we know.
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath, and preparing the meals. She was the best cook here, her and my mother. And my father, when it come to cooking, everybody can tell you that matzo ball soup was the
Yeah,
best
that's
matzo
right.
ball
Father
soup.
could cook also?
Oh, the
He
lamb.
was the best.
Oh yeah, he was
the
there.
best.
We had to,
Passion
we
lamb.
had to have the whole lamb. We didn't have
Always.
part of. We had to have the whole lamb for
And he-
Passover.
And then we do it like the Bible said do it.
You said a family that
Roasted.
prays together stays
Stays
together.
together.
We would go to the synagogue, and if you didn't go to the synagogue, forget about any social work, any social life. Because my father was the type of person, if you don't go to serve the Lord, you ain't serving the devil. Because you ain't going nowhere in this house. And we were so strict that we knew Friday night come, you better be in that house. And my father was one that always would say, my mother would say, is put Hashem first in everything you do, especially on the Shabbat
Shabbat
day.
day.
And she would have us enjoy preparing for the Shabbat candles and the table and the challah and the beautiful fish. Feast.
Fish from Friday night.
And we would all remember, even when we got married, we would come over to the house for Shabbat.
Shabbat would be
So
like
it was
Thanksgiving
always-
Day every Shabbat.
That's true.
So
That's it.
many
That's how Thanksgiving. Yeah,
different
all the
dishes, collard greens, steak,
would have-
sweet potato. She cooked
So
every.
it was a feast every Shabbat.
Every
day.
Shabbat
We look
was
forward
a
to
feast.
that. And we-
So going from, so they saw your father's willingness and his fervor for serving the Most High God, and they told him, how did that transition go? You could have the place, or
No, we
how
bought
did
it.
you
We was,
remember?
They died out, so
We-
they needed somebody to take over for the leads.
and they
So that
sold
was
it.
young Israel, right?
Right.
And the community was changing.
They was changing, and we were
Whites were
flourishing,
moving
and
out.
they were leaving. We had more members than they did,
Yes.
so that's why they offered us to rent the place at first.
So
And
they
we got
offered it to
together,
rent it.
and
Okay.
that's how we took over and
And bought
became and established that Bet
Right,
Shalom congregation with the
Ethiopian
8
Hebrew
families.
right.
And we got established charter, and we had the sisterhood, the brotherhood, and that's how we were able to sustain
And he was a
ourselves.
pillar for the community because even
Yes.
during the week he would have classes
Karate
for the
class.
community. I remember.
Daycare.
Very
Daycare.
dedicated.
We had a
Daycare.
place
Daycare.
for drug addicts. We had a
Yes.
program for anybody who
He
had a,
gave back
so we had
much.
Percy Sutton come to the synagogue. I'll
Yes,
never
he
forget
sure
it.
did. Boy, he died.
And we had Alma John who would come, and we would get the politicians come around the table and discuss issues in the community. And well respected, he would speak in
In
different
the
places.
community, yes.
That he was asked as guest speakers. He went to California, I remember, different places, because Rabbi Matthews trained
Yeah,
him how to
man.
be a speaker and
lectures.
speak
They would pay
for
him
the
to do
community.
lectures.
So he was well trained as a public speaker as well and an activist. So he would get, and I never forget when he would get in his prayers early in the morning, and he built his own little altar. He would build the
We had
little
a
altar,
prayer
remember?
altar in the house.
He had a
Still
prayer
do to
altar.
this day.
He had the
would build
incense,
anything he put his mind
and
to.
he would have visions of what he wanted to plan for the community. We saw it come into fruition. That's something unique. As children, we
Yes,
saw him.
we
He said,
saw
"You know, one day we're gonna have our own synagogue." We was in the living room. All of us was in
Yeah.
the living room. We
Anything
were
he
there
said,
in
he
these things,
manifested.
and he would say, "Yeah, and I want to make sure that I do something that we are going to help grow as a nation." He said, and you are the example. He put that, instilled all of us as a Hebrew Israelite. How you conduct yourself is very important, because Hashem is watching. He would always say, there's a hearing, there's an eye, see an eye, hear an ear, and everything you do is written in the book. So we was always together. We couldn't mingle with other people. He said, you got your
Separate.
sisters? He said, I don't want you to get into no drugs, because at that time drugs was infiltrated in the neighborhood. And he wanted to protect
helped
us from that.
Right.
So he said, if we go to the synagogue and we get involved with Torah study, he would protect his children like that. Because at that time, his brothers and sisters, and we saw our cousins, some of them went to jail, and we saw what was happening. And my father said, this is not going to happen for my family. Because we got the true and living God, and we're going to worship the Most High. You're not going to be out there in the street. You're not going to be smoking. He taught us what was right and wrong out in the streets, so nobody could put the will over our head to say, oh, they smoke marijuana or smoke this or that, whatever, and get yourself in trouble with the drugs.
Right.
So I thank him for the teachings that he gave us, and we would sit around the table and he would ask us for what the Torah message was. He would ask each one of us as we would go around the table. So my mother, she taught by example.
Yes, she
I
did.
remember when you came into Bet Shalom, first thing you had to do was learn how to keep a kosher home and keep Sabbath. So they would come to the house and learn. She would show them how to set the table, how to kosher your meats, and how to keep a kosher home. It wasn't like you just got a little handbook. No, you come into the house,
would always invite
and
them
she would
over.
invite them, and we,
loved
my
Mama,
father
'cause she
always
always
had
had
us
that
all
open spirit.
as teachers. We was, my sister's a Sabbath school teacher, I've been a Sabbath school teacher, and we all had to do something to contribute to the work of the Most High. And I thank my mother to this day.
Yes, everybody
because
falls in love with mommy.
she always
because
adopted
open
everybody.
heart.